Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that can be incredibly tough: obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. And look, we're not just going to go over the basics. We're diving into some really innovative, evidence-based treatments that are offering new hope and totally changing how we approach this condition. We're moving beyond the traditional stuff to find out what really works.
This question, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When you read personal stories or clinical reports about severe OCD, you hear this over and over. It feels like being a captive in your own mind, totally trapped in a cycle that feels impossible to escape. It's that feeling right there that's driving the search for better, more effective therapies.
Okay, so let's break this down. At its core, OCD is this vicious, self-perpetuating loop. It kicks off with an obsession, this intrusive, totally unwanted thought that just pops into your head. That, in turn, triggers some intense anxiety. So to get rid of that feeling, you perform a compulsion, some kind of repetitive behavior. And for a second, you get this little bit of relief. But here's the kicker, the real trap. That temporary relief actually makes the whole cycle stronger, reinforcing the obsession for next time. It is just exhausting.
So how in the world do you break out of that? Well, one of the most powerful new approaches is called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. And that subtitle says it all. It's a total paradigm shift. It's not about fighting harder against your thoughts. It's about dropping the rope and ending the fight completely. Now, this is where things get really counterintuitive. Because for decades, the focus was all on trying to challenge or get rid of unwanted thoughts. But ACT comes along and says, hold on, the very struggle against the thoughts, that's the fuel keeping the OCD engine running. So the goal isn't to get a silent mind. The goal is to fundamentally change your relationship with your thoughts. So ACT has these 6 core ideas that all work together. First up is cognitive diffusion, which is about learning to see your thoughts as just thoughts, not commands, not facts, just mental noise. Then there's acceptance, making room for those uncomfortable feelings instead of fighting them. Being present helps you connect with the here and now. Self as context is this cool idea that you are the sky and your thoughts are just the weather passing through. And finally, you get clear on your values, what really matters to you, and take committed action, moving toward that life even if the anxiety tags along.
And this right here just lays it all out so clearly. You've got the old way, which is this constant, exhausting battle, trying to control thoughts, fighting anxiety, and basically putting your entire life on hold. And then you have the ACT way, which is all about acceptance. You let the thoughts come and go. You make a little room for the anxiety. And this is crucial. You start living the life you value right now, not waiting for some future day when the symptoms are magically gone. Okay, so if ACT is all about changing your relationship with your thoughts, our next approach, metacognitive therapy, or MCT, goes a level deeper. It's about getting to the very beliefs you have about your thoughts, the stuff that's really fueling the fire. MCT forces you to ask this incredible question. Think about it. Is an intrusive thought about germs the real problem, or is the problem the deep-seated belief that if I think this, it's more likely to happen, or I have to be in control of my thoughts at all times? MCT goes after those beliefs about thinking.
So MCT points to this pattern it calls the cognitive attentional syndrome, or CAS for short. And it's basically a set of mental habits that keeps people trapped. First, there's the endless worrying and overthinking. Second, you have threat monitoring. You're always on high alert, scanning for the next bad thought. And third, you have these coping strategies, like trying to push thoughts away, that actually backfire and make everything worse. MCT's whole job is to take apart this entire syndrome.
And the way MCT helps you break this cycle is with a skill called detached mindfulness. And it uses some of the best metaphors you'll ever hear. You can imagine your thoughts are like plates on a sushi conveyor belt. You can just watch them go by. You don't have to grab every one. Or maybe an intrusive thought is like a fishhook. It's bait, but you don't have to bite. My favorite, though, is the no-comment reporter. Your mind shoves a microphone in your face with some crazy question, and you can just say, no comment, and keep walking. Okay, so these ideas are great, but what does this look like in the real world? Let's get super practical and talk about a really specific and frustrating form of OCD known as reading OCD, where this intense need for certainty can make something as simple as reading a book feel absolutely impossible. All right, here are 2 super simple but seriously effective techniques. They're based on a core strategy called exposure and response prevention, which is basically a fancy way of saying you face your fears bit by bit without doing the compulsion. With the paper blocker, you literally cover up the line you just read with a card or paper so you can't reread it. Then there are timed reading sprints. You just set a timer for 5 minutes and read without stopping or going back. It trains your brain to live with that feeling of uncertainty. But, what happens when talk therapy just isn't cutting it? For the 20 to 40% of people who have what's called refractory or treatment-resistant OCD, there are advanced interventions that are giving people so much hope. So when the first-line meds, like SSRIs, aren't getting the job done, doctors will often augment them. Basically, they add another medication to the mix to boost the effect. They might add an antipsychotic to work on dopamine, or they might target a totally different system using glutamate modulators. Those help kind of turn down the volume on all that excitatory noise in the brain that feeds those obsessive loops. And then we get into something that sounds like science fiction, but it's very real: neuromodulation. This means physically targeting the overactive circuits in the brain. You've got non-invasive options like transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, which uses magnetic fields. And for the most severe cases, there's deep brain stimulation, which is a surgery to implant electrodes that act almost like a pacemaker for the brain. And look, the results here can be a really big deal. For deep TMS, studies are showing a response rate of around 45% in patients who've already tried and failed multiple other treatments. I mean 45%. That is a huge number for people who felt like they'd run out of options. It's a real, tangible reason for hope. And all of this, all these different treatments, they really bring us to the ultimate goal here, because it's not just about checking boxes and lowering a symptom score on a chart. It's about completely changing the definition of what it even means to recover. If you take one thing away from all this, let it be this: modern therapies like ACT have completely shifted the goalposts. The objective is no longer this impossible mission to get a perfectly quiet, obsession-free mind. The goal, the real goal, is to build a rich, full, and meaningful life, regardless of what noisy thoughts your mind happens to be producing. So I want to leave you with this really powerful question right from the heart of ACT. If all that mental noise wasn't something you had to fix, if it was just background sound, what would you pour your energy into? What actually matters to you? Because figuring that out, that's the first step towards building a life that is so much bigger than any obsession. Thanks for watching.
Exploring the threads of human behavior is a journey without limits. Join us as we weave together